Kaivan, quickly, I'm looking for the Democrats to have um, a moment of sanity where they come back to more of a centrist. I would like to see them more of come back to their center left roots. And I thought a good thing for them to do would to just take on a culture issue like this young lady, Sydney Sweeney, with the blue jean ad. My question for you is why? I mean, it just seems like a layup for a Democrat to say, just in a very sane way, look, she's not a Nazi. This isn't about eugenics. If not that issue, what should I look for the center left to exert its authority again inside the party?
Sure. Well, I guess, and not to push back on you personally, but it's a question I just got asked on Newsmax an hour ago. I think that somehow Democrats lose this media narrative where they allow the nation to paint them with the brush of Mamdani, who just won a primary, barely identifies as a Democrat, and who I think a lot of people think the entire establishment is out to stop. And you have people like Cuomo right in that race. You have the current mayor of New York, who was the Democrat last time in that race. And yet Donald Trump has Laurel Loomer in his ear telling him what decisions to make and somehow doesn't get that same label. So I think that's one separate issue. But I hear you absolutely. And I think I'd point to an example of Pete Buttigieg's recent interview on NPR. I don't know if you caught it, but he sort of laid out his view on trans athletes in sports. And I think, first of all, his overall answer was that this should be left to communities and schools to decide what's best. And, maybe it's different by age group, and maybe it's different if you're talking about chess versus lacrosse. And I think that kind of is a sensible answer to folks. Now, again, he did sort of go beyond that and say that he thinks most reasonable people see it as unfair, and of course got some backlash from the left on that. So I don't know that he needed to add that. But I agree that we're going to see more and more of that from some of the key players that do want to get us back to the center. The reality from my perspective is that the far left has not been a reliable coalition for the party, and they should really think of that when they're making their decisions going forward.
Yeah, but one thing I would say, it's a narrative, but it's a well-deserved one, because I think the left has embraced all of these radical policies and ideologies now for multiple cycles.
But who has done that? Who has embraced Zoran Mandan?
Everyone.
Who's everyone?
From
not
an
Kamala
open
Harris,
from an open
not
border,
Joe Biden, certainly not Hillary Clinton.
From an open border to trans athletes.
But I'm sorry.
Sports,
Just can you answer that? But can you respond to that? Who has embraced Zoran Mamdani's platform? That's a mainstream figure in the Democratic Party, not Hakeem Jeffries. Right?
Well,
the
list goes on,
the
police stuff, a lot of people raised their hands in that debate in 2020. I mean, it was a killer.
Defund the police, every one of them.
I mean,
but
every one of
all
them.
those figures I just named, right, have not embraced Zoran Mandan. Every leader in the party, actually.
Sure, but they haven't repudiated or rejected him either. So there's kind of a tacit, hey, we like this guy for this particular part of the country.
But on the other hand, like, why is the Laura Loomer angle not focused on?
She's not running for mayor.
Because Donald Trump's currently the president.
She's not running for mayor.
Currently, I mean, she's telling him who to hire and who to fire.
He isn't. She's giving him information. He decides what to do with it.
So Kaivan, let me ask you then, if you were advising a candidate for 2028, would you advise that he or she seek some issues to, as Dean said, moderate? Or would you say, hey, no, that's a misnomer. Like, you need to be clearer, or you need to kind of go on offense against Trump? Like, how would you advise somebody if you were on their team?
Yeah, I think a few things. I don't think it's about moderating on the issues handed to you and say, where are you on this spectrum? I want to hear new ideas. Like, where is the exciting agenda on AI that doesn't have to do just with regulation from Democrats? I think there was a powerful moment when Ro Khanna went on Theo Von, big podcaster show, and sort of broke down that AI regulation ban. That was, insightful. It really made the case that Democrats are fighting for the people. Republicans are trying to sneak this through. And who's it going to affect? The trucker who, is going to be out of a job. I think more of that, where it's just a new conversation, not moderating on the old issues. But I think, speaking of a Ro Khanna, it's not just going to be about policy. Donald Trump has charisma, and nobody denies that. Ro Khanna has no charisma, unfortunately. Very nice guy, met him several times. He sometimes says the right things, but he's never going to break through in that way. Zoran Mandan has charisma. Doesn't mean we should go all in on his policies, right? So I am still thinking, no, I think Wesmore has charisma, but there's a limited set of people that have a likable personality. You want to watch them all the time. You want to be sort of on every video that they're watching. They're funny, they're saying things in a certain way, and that's definitely missing.
I will real quickly, Dan. I've heard Wesmore speak. I think he's very good. I think he's got a lot of charisma. I think the speech was very personable. It hit home. It resonated with those in the crowd. I will say, as Dan asked the question, are we going to moderate on these bread and butter issues, or are they just going to keep plowing through? And your answer was AI. Like, it's the American people out there concerned about economic issues, of course. And now the AI will affect that, but it's going to be a minute.
No, I was actually separating the two.
It's men and women's sports, it's tax policy, it's border policy. Those are the things that drove the last election. And it's why Donald Trump got elected, quite frankly, with the most diverse coalition in the history of Republican politics. And the only demographic where he lost support was amongst whites. He went up in every other category. It's because those issues weren't just popular and didn't just solve problems, they were just common sense. And so until Democrats decide to grab some of that common sense and say, I think we're going to stick here for a minute, they're going to be in trouble for a while.
Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.